Hi, this is Beth from Around the Table Yarns. Tonight we are doing the blocking of the yoke of the Paul Klee sweater by Midori. I'm going to say her name wrong. Midori Hirose is what I want to say, but now I'm not looking at my pattern. Um, and and then we're going to talk about our next steps. So I'm going to switch my camera over to my newly set up studio camera. I'd like that to come into focus. Oh, it just doesn't want to be in focus because it's far away. Hang on. So here is my yoke, and I have transferred it onto a nice long, and in fact, it's on three long stitch holder cords so that it can fully extend. And the top of the yoke is the same size. It's 144 stitches for my size, and the bottom of the yoke is now about 408 stitches. So it's gotten much bigger. And it's looking like this. And what you can maybe see is that it's very ridged, that these all of this stranded color work from behind, even though I've left really nice, long, loose floats, it still looks very ridged. And so what I'd like to do tonight is show you how that smooths out. And then the other thing I just want to point out is that I went ahead and transferred my stitches onto the smaller needle and started 4 rounds of plain knitting for the body. And I did that because I wanted to block that at the same time that I blocked the yoke portion to just see if I was in the right ballpark for having those stitches line up and match. So I'm really excited about this. I did try it on and it does seem like it's loose, but I know that when we pick up and do our neckline from the top of this yoke in, it's going to make a big difference. And as you can see, it's a really nice looking yoke so far. So here we go. Push that off to the side and bring in my blocking basin. So here we go. I have a basin of tepid water. I'm going to add a smidge of the little bit of soap in here. So not much. You don't need to put a cup in. You don't need to put a quarter cup. A drop is plenty. And I want to just mix that around in the water. So notice I've already filled my basin. I'm not filling the basin with the project in it. If you run cool or warm or tepid or whatever water, especially onto wool, it can felt it sort of in place. And so I didn't want to do that until I don't want to run water onto my project. So I fill the basin separately and then I put the project in. It's still connected to the ball, but I'm not putting the ball in. So I'm just going to dunk that in and push it down. And you can hear little bubbles. I can hear little bubbles. You can see little bubbles coming up. That's the suds, but it's also the air that's trapped in the woolen fibers. And as I push down, you can sort of see bubbles come up. And I am an impatient blocker. I like to get it done with. So I don't just leave it sitting in here. I actively try to push out as much of the air that's caught in my woolen fibers as I can. I had an experience recently where I was blocking a sweater that was very contrasting, hot pink yarn and very, very vivid green yarn, and we were afraid that the pink would run. And so we did our blocking very, very quickly so that the pink didn't have a chance to run and set on the green. And so I tend to be faster, and what you'll see me squeezing my project, but you will not see me wringing it or stretching it. Wool, when it is wet, can stretch up to 30% of its length. And so you can really change the length and the shape of something by stretching it when it's wet. It also gets very heavy when it's wet. And so I don't want to pick it up by one part of it and like let it drag out. I want to pick it up all together. So that's pretty wet all the way through. I'm not getting any more bubbles out. Not getting very many bubbles out. Squeezing it under the water. So I'm going to take it out of the water. Just squeeze as much as I can out while I move the bucket. I'm going to just take this where my dog can't get it because it has detergent in it now. All right. The next thing I do when I'm blocking is I use a bath towel or a blocking towel. This is one from Cocoa Knits that we carry at the store. And what I want to do is just arrange it in one layer if possible, and then roll it. We can pull in the edges. I want to roll it up completely. And then I usually do this in my bathroom, and I go onto the floor of my bathroom and I kneel on it or I stand on it. But you want to push out as much of the water as possible. Sometimes it's such thick yarn or it's held so much water, it needs 2 changes of a towel. And that's okay. And then you unroll it. And again, it's still heavy. It's lighter, but it's still heavy. So I'm going to hang this up to dry.
So putting it in, putting the piece in the washing machine on a spin cycle is too rough on it.
For blocking?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
To get the water out. Not on this one, but
you don't need to, and you want it to be damp when you lay it flat.
Okay.
So if you're laundering it, that's a little different. You can launder it on a hand wash cycle potentially.
This is just I lately trying to get the water out and not felt it, not try to rub it or squeeze it too much. It seemed like putting it in this just for a spin was a good way to go.
You can certainly do that, especially if you have a machine that allows you to spin like that.
Only spin. Okay.
Okay. So where we saw the corrugated parts, we want to lay those as flat as possible. And we want to get it in as much of a circle as possible. My granddog is here to help me. She's like, Grandma, you took away my water bowl. And hopefully. So what I want is for this to dry as flat as I can make it. And I'm not worried about, here is where my joins are, and you can see that that's a little bit more raggedy. There's some more holes there. Those are going to be able to be closed when I weave in my ends. I'm not worried about that now. I'm not going to try and weave in my ends now. I'm not going to do it till the end, because if I need to take anything back, and I've woven in my ends, I'm kind of stuck. And I just want to get this part as flat as possible. towards the top as much as possible. A little wrinkly here because it's kind of gathered. So maybe I need to pull it open a little bit more. Get that to lay flat. And you can see these like larger holes. That's where I've got yarn behind. And when I weave those in, that's going to pull those holes closed. So we're not worried about those right now. So there you go. That's it blocked. So it only takes a few minutes to do once you've got all your setup. I'm using a blocking mat that I got years ago, but you can use an old quilt or a couple of clean dry towels to lay it on. I'm going to have this in a room with a ceiling fan. I'm going to sit it under the ceiling fan so it dries. And when usually what happens is I'll come back and touch it a few hours later and the surface will feel dry on top, but it will still be damp below. And so I'll flip it over like a pancake and I'll just place it in its section like this. I do not pin it. I am not pinning this. This is not lace. It doesn't need to be pinned out. It doesn't need to be stretched anymore. In fact, I'm trying not to stretch. I'm trying to just get it to be as flat as possible.
So Beth, I noticed on the diagram on page 4 that there are some measurements, and like the measurement M, which is the last one, shows the yoke depth. So when I pinned mine out, I tried to make it 8 inches
to match the yoke depth.
Yeah, to match the yoke depth of the color work. Is
My
that okay or not okay?
That's
or
just
does it matter?
perfectly fine. Hang on one second. I'm looking for my I'm looking for my pattern. My pattern got tucked away. So here I am. So I'm looking at the same thing. Yes. So
Yeah,
on
page 4.
page 4 of the pattern, I'm just gonna hold it under. There you go. That's the chart with all the sizes on it. So what hang on, I'm gonna switch. Has everybody seen as much of that as they'd like to? Go to here. So this is the chart that has all of the sizes on it. And the measurement that Julia's talking about is here, this M measurement. And the M measurement should be, so I want to just point out 2 things. The M measurement is not the same as the D measurement. The D measurement here is the top of the shoulder to the beginning of, or the end of the armhole. And the M measurement is from the bottom of the collar. So the M measurement is just the yoke. The D measurement is sort of the top half of the sweater, not including the collar. And the E measurement is the length of the body of the sweater, including the ribbing. So what Julia is saying is that she's laid hers out and she's made it match this measurement. Mine will not match this measurement because I added 3 extra rounds.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I know that mine is going to go below this. But the reason that that's okay is I have all of these extra. So here you can see that there is more room. You can have a yoke that goes to here, or you can have a yoke. I mean, you could have a yoke that goes to here if you wanted to. It's just where you want to separate for the arms. So I elected to use all of my colors and I went down to about here. So my M is supposed to be 8 inches and my actual measurement, dun, 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 is, now that it's blocked, and it's not dry yet, so I'll do this, I will measure it again when it's dry. But let's say that it doesn't change substantially. This was going to be 8 inches, but I've gone further, so I'm more like 10.5. So I could have stopped here, and that's about 3 rounds. that I could have stopped at, and that would have been to the sizing of mine. So my sweater is going further down here, but there's still, as you can see, it's still increasing in size. It's just once you get done with the yoke, in the yoke, all of the increasing is done evenly spaced around. And after you're done with the yoke, there's 4 rounds of plain knitting, maybe more, depending on how you want it to fit. And then they start raglan shaping before the underarms or before the arms, the sleeves are divided from the body. So there's still increasing that's supposed to happen. So I just elected to just continue and let that increasing take me down a little bit further in my body. But you know, and it's Midori Hirose. I think I actually said her name right. Um, so Julie, did that answer your question?
Yes, because I did only 11 colors.
Okay, so yours is shorter and matches your
Yeah, I
actual.
started with 144 as well, but
Yeah. So I have 408 stitches now, which is, it seems like a ton. So mine is a lot closer to the end point of the yoke shaping.
yeah, I have 360 stitches.
Perfect. Okay, so if you have been following along with your so I have my pattern here, and you know, we all know it's quite a long pattern. So where are we? If you've gotten to the bottom of your yoke, then you have finished all of the color work pages, and you should be coming to section 4 on page 14. And section 4 is the beginning of the raglan increases. And this is where it tells you to go ahead and wet block your sweater if you'd like to. I highly recommend. I do not think you should avoid doing the wet blocking. I will say that I think if you wanted to do the 4 rounds of plain knitting, the non color work rounds before you block, that's okay. Because I wanted to see that my gauge was the same, and I'm seeing that on my smaller needles. So the main part of the sweater is knitted on a size smaller needle than the yoke part of the sweater for most people. Some people are going to use the same size because of the gauge that they got. But for most people, if you are changing your needle size, this is the point where you would change your needle size. So before I blocked it today, I actually switched over to my smaller needle and did my 4 rounds so that I could just kind of double check them and make sure they looked comparable to the ones that had been done on the larger needle. And they do. And I'm very pleased about that. So mine is also a little bit longer because I've already got my 4 plain rounds in. This page that we're on, section 4, on page 14, also gives you alternates. So some of the sizes, almost every size, there's 2 sizes that don't do just 4 rounds. So if you're one of those 2 sizes, it does tell you to do more, and that probably has to do with how many rounds of color work that you did. And then it tells you how many yoke rounds total you will have done at the end of this. So I currently have 60 rounds of yoke done, and then I did 4 more, so I've got 64 total rounds done. And for my size, I'm supposed to have 75. So I have, even though my yoke is longer, I still have 11 more rounds to go and at least 1 raglan increase to go, because my final number that I'm supposed to come up with is 416 and I'm at 408. So what happens now in your project? So here we are looking at the plain rounds are here, And depending where you ended your rounds, your plain rounds may be higher up on your shoulder or lower down. But when you finish these, what I'd like you to do is count the total number of stitches that you have at the end of your yoke and your plain rounds. And they shouldn't change for the 4 plain rounds because you're not doing any increases, you're not doing anything differently. You're just working on the same stitches that the yoke was on. So when you get done with that, you're going to count the total number of stitches. And what we want to look at, and I'm going to show this chart. This is my size, 416 stitches. This is the size that my gauge came out to, was the large. It's this highlighted line on the chart. So you can't see it very well. I wrote it out on a piece of paper.
That's on page 15, right?
That's on page 15. So I wrote this out here because that line says 416 and it's 61 stitches on either side of the beginning of round, 86 stitches for the sleeves, and 122, which is 61 plus 61. That's the back. Now, sorry, that's the front. Some of our people did a steek in the middle, and so this is their back. Some of our people are doing as written as a pullover, and so this is their front and these are their backs. But either way, it's symmetric. So I think, Marie, you're another person who was doing a steek. And so your numbers, whatever your final number was supposed to be, this is how you're going to come out.
That's really that it's so symmetric.
It's so symmetric. Yeah, there's no funny business. So I have 408 stitches. So I just backed up. So every time you do one of these raglan increases, you're increasing around, I didn't leave myself room to draw. I draw a little picture. There's your yoke, and you're increasing at the sleeves. So you're going to increase on either side of each sleeve. So that's 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You increase 8 stitches each time you do a round of increases for the raglan increase. So I started with where I'm supposed to get to, which is on page 15. That was the number 416. And I looked at that, the way that those numbers are broken up. I'm going to move my fingers over there so it will maybe come into focus. And then I subtract it. So this is the number that I actually have. And so each time I do an increase on this half, I'm adding 1. And each time I do an increase in one of these boxes, I'm adding 2. And then here I'm just adding 1. So, sorry, here and here, I'm adding 1. So if I end with 61, or if I'm supposed to end with 61, I would subtract 1 from these halves and get to 60. I would subtract 2 from the other 3 numbers and come to 84, 120, and 84. So this is actually the division that I need to do. This is the way I need to set my markers for my sleeves. And when I do my sleeve separation, it will be these stitches that get separated out. And these stitches, the 61 and 122 and the 61, will become the body. Does that make sense? So if your number is further back from here, so Julie said 360. Julie, what are you supposed to end at?
424.
424. So you're setup is here.
Right. Yep.
And you can, so the table on page 14 gives you your setup for different stitch totals that you might have ended with. So these go from 224, 256, and on up. So anybody finishing these charts, they're going to end with one of these numbers. And so then it tells you how to set up your sleeves and your front or back, the full side, and then the two halves of the other side. So I think it's, my pattern's wet now. I don't know how that could possibly have happened. So the next step is to get to where we are right now. We finished the yoke. Where we'd like to get to is to the sleeve separation. And what I would like for everybody to do is end up with the correct number of stitches that you're supposed to have on page 15. And this was the number that we measured our gauge by, or that we determined by calculating our gauge and looking at our actual bust circumference and actually and the fit of a sweater that we like, how it fits us. And that's where we picked that number, was from the chart on page 15. So this is the stage where we're going to get from wherever we are with the yoke to that number. And that's the final sort of fit around our bust. So the other thing you need to take into consideration is how many rows or rounds you have. So every one, for the most part, every one of your color work rounds should be 5. So you would have done 4 rounds plain and then a 5th one if there was any increasing, or 5 rounds total for each of the color work rounds. So I have 12 color work rounds. So I have 60 rounds. And then I did 4 more for the plain rounds after. So I have 64 total. And on page 14, it tells you how many rounds you're supposed to have right here at the bottom of that paragraph. And I'm supposed to have 75. So I have 11 more to do. I only have 1 more increase to do. So I think what I'm going to do is put it right in the middle. I'm not going to put it at the end. I'm going to put it in the middle of my 11 rows. So that will be, I'll do 5 more. And then I'll do, in the 6th round, I'll do my increases. And then I'll do 5 more. And then I'll be ready to divide my sleeves and my body. So exciting. So one of the things that occurred to me, though, is that it would be really helpful to perhaps also think about working in the other direction. And the reason I say that is when you try it on and it's loose around your body, it can fall down your shoulders and it can seem too big here. And it can be a little bit of a question how it's going to fit. So some people came into the project and they were like, I want a round neck. I do not want a turtleneck. Some people were like, I'd like a little bit of a collar. Some people want a turtleneck. Some people want an even higher turtleneck. So if you have an idea of what kind of, this is really important if you have an idea of what kind of neck you want to have. I am considering having an I-cord finish around the edge, but I want to make sure it's not too loose. So I was actually kind of toying with the idea of picking up because I feel pretty comfortable about going in the other direction towards the body. I feel like that's all squared away, but I'm not sure how it's going to fit me here. So I put it on, and this is really damp. So I just want you to feel for me. And it's kind of soggy, but I put it on when it was still dry. And it's, it's quite open. So I want to kind of pull up and maybe do some decreases, but I'm comfortable with like where this is hitting me and that it's not all the way, it's close to Like I have a couple inches, but I'm very nearly at my armhole split. And as you can see, it kind of does open up around the neckline of the sweater that I'm wearing. So this is all the ribbing of the sweater that I'm wearing. And so I feel pretty good about how this is going to fit. It's a little bit lower in the back, but that's gravity. I feel pretty good about how this is going to fit. I feel like maybe I'd like to see what the 144 stitches look like when it's dry and not on a provisional. So I'm very tempted to take out my provisional and put this back on the needles and do a few rows. And then what I might do, I looked at the sweater that I'm wearing and took measurements off of it, and it has a little bit of the short row shaping at the back and a little, so it's a little bit higher at the back and lower at the front, but only by 1/2 inch. And so I was thinking maybe I would use the measurements from this one to help me determine the neckline of that one, because I think this one fits well and is comfortable, and I like the way it wears, and I would be comfortable with this for my Paul Klee. So I thought about doing a round neck, but now I'm sort of more thinking about doing, at least it's not a complete turtleneck, it's like a mock turtleneck.
Is that the Naima sweater that
This
you
is
have
the Naima,
on?
yeah.
Okay, so if we made one of those, well, but the yarn weight's a lot different, I think,
The yarn weight's actually DK.
on that.
Yeah,
But it's fingering on this.
it's
So,
22, but it's still 40, it's still 22 stitches to 4 inches. It's this,
oh, is it? Okay.
it's supposed to be the same gauge, not
Oh,
the
okay.
same weight. Like this is a thicker sweater and a heavier, denser sweater.
Yeah.
But
But if we made one of those, that would be a good gauge to figure
if,
out our raglan length
if
and
your Naima fits you, it's not the
yeah.
gauge that's important, it's the measurements that fit you.
Yeah, the raglan depth and all that
Yeah.
would be.
So I actually took this off today at the shop. Found a different shirt to wear at the store and took this one off and took measurements of it. And where did I put them? I thought I brought them with me. I'm taking my glasses off so I can't see anything anyway, but oh, where's your math? It's disappeared. But what I did was I essentially took this measurement here, or this picture here, which is on page 5. Putting my glasses back on. And where is it? I'm looking at all these little pieces of paper. None of them are the ones I want. So this is an outline of this sweater. I took this diagram and essentially measured my Naima, which is fitting me exactly the way that I would like this to fit, and checking all of these measurements. So right now I am on target for dividing my sleeves exactly in the right place. I am on target for the width across and for the width of my sleeves. And I'm feeling pretty comfortable with this, and that my neckline will look pretty similar.
On
My
the diagram on page 4, where they give D, which is the raglan depth or the like from the neckline down to the armpit, is that a vertical measurement or did they do it on the diagonal?
Well, they're doing it straight, the
Up and
D.
down. Okay.
So this is a measurement, like if you laid your sweater out and you
Yeah.
measured from the top of the shoulder to the underarm. And really, what I would say is don't try and measure this. Measure from the top of the shoulder to the hem, and then measure from the underarm to the hem and
Okay.
subtract. Because I think this measurement is a little airy-fairy to find. You know, it's like you'd have to really know where this line was across, and I don't think we always get that right.
Well, so do you ever measure the raglan on the diagonal, like from the base of the
No,
neck?
I do not.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
So if you had a sweater that you liked, you wouldn't look at that diagonal measurement
Nope.
and compare it? Okay.
So in fact, what I measured on mine was I wanted to check the here, mine was 7 inches across there, and it was
Yeah.
5 inches across here. The only measurement I take on the diagonal is this one. So how long was my sleeve from there to there? And how long was my cuff from there to there? How long? So the actual measurements that you can easily take, your armpit to the ground, that's an
Yeah.
actual measurement that you can take. From your top of your shoulder to the hem, that's another one. And the difference between them is the depth of your raglan.
Okay.
And I think that's more accurate to do. So if this was 24 and this was 15, which is what it was, then my depth of my raglan was 9.
Okay.
Except that I'm not sure if it was 24 or 25 because I feel like it was 10. But I'm kind of on track for this to fit in the same way. And right now, I don't have a collar on my sweater. So that's why I'm so tempted to go backwards and put the collar on now. So what do you guys think? Do you want to do the collar now? Because we can't, I mean, we can
Yes.
do, yes. I love a consensus.
I think there's somebody else on the call who's making, or they were last month making the child sweater, and they're for a child who's smaller than the sweater, which is, you figure they're going to grow into it. But the child, and maybe I kind of feel like my rounds are too loose. Maybe they don't look gappy, but the thing is so big.
It may feel big, but the biggest measurement around your body or a child's body is this circle.
Yeah.
Because you have to have armhole in there. And armhole is I don't know how to do this on camera. Armhole is from here to here. So that's a much longer length than just like if I had my arms down and I put a measuring tape around my arms and my body.
Right.
Right? That's a much longer length. So my sweater looks huge. This circle that's sitting here getting blocked looks enormous. I just ruined it because I threw it down, but
I was wondering if there was a way, my brain can't do it, but to take out. There's only in the smallest size. There's 2 repeats of the sections.
Yeah.
So if it was bigger, maybe you could take out a whole repeat. But I was thinking, is there a way to make this smaller?
What
But then if I do
repeats
the
are
neck,
what repeats are you referring to?
it has the pie piece, and how many times you do that pie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for the smallest, you just do it twice. Anyway.
No, for the smallest, you just do 7 rounds.
Right, but the picture, so they give you the description of what the round is, the repeats in the round. And so the section that they're illustrating
is half.
Is half.
Okay.
Anyway, so some of what I'm wondering is how much can I do adjustments going up to make it smaller, understanding it's going to pull in a bit, but
well, the good news is that children do not shrink.
yes.
And so even if you make, and I do actually think that for some things it's better to aim a little bit above their their size than below their size.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You're also steeking it, so you're going to be taking an
Right.
inch out from that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that, what I was trying to illustrate with hi bug, that's exactly where I want you. My kitty. What I want to, point out again is that the outside of this circle is pretty wide, but the inside of this circle, my head fits through and it's comfortably snug. So I think we can go in.
Mhm.
We can go in a couple of different ways. We can decrease the number of stitches if we want to. We can also go down a needle size, and that will snug it up.
Yeah,
So the first thing I want to do is like put it on needles or put it on a holder so that I can see how big is it exactly? Is that how big I want my neckline to start at? So let's say I did this and I measured the circumference of this and the diameter was 10 inches across. I'm making up numbers. And my of this sweater that I want it to fit like. And I measured mine and it's 12 inches across. Well, I want to come in an inch around, like bring it in an inch.
yeah,
So I think by understanding that it's like 2 inches out of the 12 I want to get rid of, that how many stitches is that?
right. But then you're doing a curve too.
Well,
So
you're going to
the
do, so if we
measurement,
do that evenly around.
but the measurement that I'm getting is right. Right at the neck, how wide would I want it? That would be the question, right? And then
Yeah.
how to get
And
it
you
from
might
the
want to
neck.
get your hands on one of the child's sweaters
Yeah,
that fits.
yeah.
So I think what I'm trying to illustrate.
I'm loving knitting this though. It's so beautiful and so fun.
So if this is the neckline I want, and this is the neckline I have, and it's an inch more, so it's 12 across instead of 10, then I want to get rid of about a 12th of the stitches. So however many, so I have 144 divided by, hey, that's 12. So I want to get rid of 12 stitches to bring it in. And that's certainly a place to start.
Yeah,
And then if I want to bring it in more, and it just depends whether you want a round neck or more of a, God, my drawing skills are just tremendous today, or more of a funnel neck. Because if you want a funnel neck, one, you can have some more decreases along and just evenly space those along the collar, knowing that you don't want to get too small. It still has to go around somebody's head.
right. Well, and because I'm making a cardigan.
Oh, yeah.
There'd just be a button band.
Oh, so you're fine. You don't have to worry about going around somebody's head.
No,
It just
but I
has
do
to go
have to
around somebody's.
pull it up. I mean, yeah,
So you probably don't want it much bigger than that.
no.
And then my dog. So then you might still have a couple of decreases around, but also changing to a smaller needle. And doing ribbing pulls it in.
Right.
Like you can do three things. You can decrease the number of stitches initially, you can change to a smaller needle, and you can do a ribbing.
So how about using the smaller needle that she calls for in the ribbing?
Yeah.
And just use that smaller needle for the rest of
For the neck.
For the stockinette and the ribbing.
Well, I don't think you have to do it for the stockinette, and it might be visibly too small.
Okay.
It depends on how much, like if you're going to have any stockinette above the color work. So if you're going to work any short rows.
Well, we will, won't we?
Right, but we have to work them in reverse. So the first thing we have to do is put all the stitches back on. Identify the center of our back. That's going to be the place that we're doing short rows across. And then I would suggest that we do our short rows, and it's going to depend a little bit on how many stitches you have. But if this is, let's see, if I've picked up the stitches for the back of my neck and the front of my neck, so there's all of the stitches, I would want to probably, and we've got our beginning of round here in the middle. So you'd have to figure out what the beginning of the round, because your beginning of round is actually the front of your sweater. So you need to find the halfway point of the back. But what I want you to do is to do the short rows, like, and this is the way they're done in the pattern, like an inch or so to either side of that, and then by small increments to either side. So there's about 4 to 6 short rows total. And so you would work around where you'd go past this center point by this number. I'm going to just make it 10. And then you do your turn and you'd go back 10 past this marker. And then you'd do a turn and you'd go, this would be marked, and you'd go plus, I'm going to say 4 more. And then you'd turn and you'd go back to the center marker, back to the 10, and then plus 4 more. So you matched on either side. And these would be evenly spaced, maybe 4 stitches apart on each side. So the rows, if I were looking at them, would go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what makes them get taller around the back. And then you would just simply resume going in the round when you had built up like a half an inch or so.
So when we're doing them in reverse, that means, because when you do it going top down, you start with the smaller.
Right. You want to start with the longest.
The longest. Okay.
So on that one, that means you would read the rows backwards. And those short rows are here on page 6. So the short rows, I believe the short rows for all the sizes are here. I could be wrong. I think that's it. I think that's the only place that they have them.
No, the
no?
short rows are on page 7. Page 6 is just the kid sizes. Is that what you meant for her? Yeah. Okay.
So they're written out here on page 6. And then on page 7, it tells you.
You do the kids ones and then you add a few more.
With how to follow the short row sequence for your size.
Yeah.
So for each size, it gives you a short row sequence. But the explanation for how to do the short rows are all here, and they're all German short rows. So that's a slip German short row, purl 4, slip marker, purl 5, turn. So knowing you have so many stitches on your half, and they've also increased stitches around, Marie. So they increased 10, look at that, 10 stitches that they increased. So you could also go backwards and do these decreases.
Hang on a second. So
at the bottom, so you should have started at like 112.
Right.
So you want to work backwards from here.
So I want to be should I decrease and then do the short rows?
No, you should do the short rows first.
And then decrease.
And then decrease. So you should have. So what we need to do is figure out where, so it's easy to do it from the start and go, because that's the way the recipe is written. So what we need to do is figure out where in the 112 you're supposed to be here, so that we can start there and work all of this backwards.
So, so they also increased 3 on the last row.
I see that.
I could just skip that.
Or you could just increase it randomly.
But
Like
if I'm feeling it's too, I mean, that's the first place I'm gonna not add stitches.
right, but you started with 112,
Yes.
so you're
So
going down.
decrease, I have to decrease, right,
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
would just be
yeah,
decreasing 3 stitches,
yeah.
and you're actually decreasing 6 stitches in 2 rounds.
Mhm.
So potentially it looks like they're being increased in specific places. I'd like to sort of map out where that's happening.
Yeah, right.
And then
I need to write this out backwards. I mean,
so
write it
you don't
backwards.
need to do the neckline till you get back. You could work down from here and do the neckline later. But I feel like this is pretty encouraging that we can work backwards and engineer backwards from your neckline.
Okay. I'm glad you're encouraged.
Oh yeah. No, that's totally doable. Where the problem is they're like, okay, work this far and then turn, and then they're basing the next line on where you turned. And so unless we work from the top to like figure out, okay, where is that? What stitch are they on when they make that last turn? That's the stitch we need to get to engineer backwards. And I'll have to work through that to figure it out. Does that make sense?
You have to draw a map.
I'm gonna have to draw a map.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Well,
to rewrite those directions backwards. And so what I'd like to do, I'm gonna work on mine because I am gonna put short rows in mine, and I will reverse engineer those short rows.
I might come into the shop next week.
Okay.
I can't come this week.
You're not here.
Yeah.
I'm here now, but I'm not, but I got a lot of, I'm gone again.
Okay.
I'm here for
Yeah.
the finishing school on Wednesday.
So I think, well, I won't be there on Wednesday, but I think we've got a plan. So I think the plan is get to your armhole. If you know what kind of collar you're going to have. If you don't know what kind of collar you're going to have, think about it. Think about it pretty seriously between now and April.
And there's a lot of samples on Ravelry, right, of different
Yeah,
things people
there
have
really
done.
are. People did all kinds of things, including I-cord. So you need to find a sweater that fits you, a sweater or a shirt. It doesn't have to be a sweater. It doesn't have to have the same gauge. It doesn't need to be manufactured in the same way, but find something with a round neck, a circle neck, not a U neck, not a V neck. We're not making this into a V-neck, but find something with a circular neck that is either a round neck that you like, or like a mock neck like this one, or a turtleneck that you like the fit of. And let's use that as the basis of what you're planning for this sweater. But as you can see from these directions on the short rows, it will get smaller. So if it does look big, and I know that these do look big to everybody, they will look smaller when we get done with them, because the cast-ons were much smaller than where we started with the color work sections. So I feel pretty confident about this. I will have a short row plan in April for all the sizes. So if you can all get to your underarm shaping or your underarm separation, that would be great. Does everybody feel pretty comfortable about what they're going to do with their raglan shaping?
So is there a chance that following the pattern, we might not get a big enough like depth in our to get to our underarms?
Well, they give you, so in the pattern, she gives you the depth that she expects it to be.
Okay, so
So
we
you
need to
can
make
you
sure.
can compare 80 rounds
Okay.
or whatever, however many rounds you're supposed to have. Mine was 75. What size were you doing?
Extra large.
Extra large. So extra
Yeah, I think
large,
I'm supposed to have
75.
75 and then with the setup round and then all the increases. It's like I'm adding, let's see. I'm adding 8 times 8, 60. I'm adding 64 stitches in one. I do eight increase rounds. So there's 2 rounds per increase round. So that's 16 more, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
how many rounds have you got now?
Um, what I'm supposed to have, 72, or I have 11. I must have 55.
55. So you've got 20 to go.
Yeah.
So 4 and then 16.
Yeah. Right.
And
So
did
as
you
long as
and
it
did you put it
measures,
on? Did you see
yeah.
how it
But
fit?
see, when I put mine on, let me put the picture on. So I feel like my neck hole is much smaller than yours. When I put it on, I have a big sweater on, but it's
It's
not
not,
nearly as low as yours is. So I feel like I don't have to do a
but
lot.
you used a
Oh,
non-superwash. Mine's stretchier.
oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That could be too. Yeah. And mine's not wet, yours is. But
Mine's
anyway, so
very
mine's
damp.
no, mine's not as
Yeah,
low. So I was concerned if I did the same amount of rows, like somehow I wouldn't have enough depth in my row
but
in my
this is a
yoke before I
top-down
split.
sweater, so the happy part is that you get to try it on,
Right.
and if you need to do some more rows, you can
Yeah.
before the separation.
And not have to do increases, just more rows. Yeah. Okay.
So I would do the four plain rounds and then
Yeah.
alternate your increase rounds with plain rounds.
Yeah.
That'll take you to 20. And you can see there how many 20 rounds is. Is that going to take you closer to
Oh,
where you
yeah,
want to
that'll
be?
be like four of these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I measure,
So that'll give you um a guideline of where you're going.
yeah, that is 2 3/4 inches. Yeah, each one of my squares is 5/8 of an inch long.
So the measure your sweater, top of the shoulder to the hem, top of the or bottom of the armhole to the hem. What's the depth? Compare that to the, understanding
On this. Okay.
that you're right here, and then what is that? What's the difference? I
Yeah.
was gonna say differential. What's the
Yeah.
difference there? Because maybe you want 5 more rows.
Right.
Maybe you want 3 less. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you need to figure out that
Yeah.
number for you.
But the fact that my circumference or that my depth of my yoke is 8 inches doesn't necessarily, even though that's what she has on her thing, that's not anything to do with circumference. And circumference, like if my neck circumference where I started was smaller than yours, then, it's not going to be the same size. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it depends where this part hits,
Yes. Right. Okay.
which is which is why, do you know what kind of collar you want?
I don't. I know I don't want a high turtleneck. Um, Maybe just around it, just like a 1 inch, since it's already, you know,
So,
close.
so if you don't want it, if you are going to do that, you probably don't need to do short rows.
Right.
So what you might want to do is have some even decreases around. Like what is the comfortable place where you want this to sit,
Yeah.
and decrease to that, and then work a ribbing or whatever you want the collar to
Yeah.
be of an inch, and then bind off.
I'm gonna work down to my armpits and then I'm gonna come in and try it on and let you let you help me.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know some people aren't near the shop, and if you're not near the shop, that's okay. We can still work through this. And you can call, we can do FaceTime, we can do on the Zoom. It doesn't have to be a big public thing. It doesn't have to be recorded. It can just be, the information that you need as well. The email for the shop is info@aroundthetableyarns.com. The telephone number is 216-230-9224. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this. And I think that I think we have a plan. The plan is to finish your yoke, block it out, add the 4 rounds that you're supposed to have, or however many rounds for your size that you're supposed to have, and double check against your measurements, and then determine how many increased rounds you need to do to get to your size. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to contact me at the shop. All right, we're going to call it a night. We're going to meet again in April for part next. And at that point, I will have a reverse engineered short row plan for all of you. Fingers crossed. I love math. So have a great month and enjoy the blizzard tonight if you're here in Cleveland. And if you're somewhere sunny and warm, please can I come visit you? All right.
Thanks, Beth. I'm loving this.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.